Welcome back to Hunted and Haunted Evidence and Echoes. Chicago was supposed to be a promise. The year was 1893. The city was glowing. Electric lights, grand architecture, optimism stitched into every street. The World's Columbian Exposition promised the future, and millions came to see it. One man came to feed. He welcomed travelers with a smile. He offered rooms. He offered safety. What he built instead was a maze of lies, locks, and loss. Because inside a hotel designed by H.H. Holmes, people didn't check out. They disappeared. Welcome to Hunted and Haunted Evidence and Echoes, where we examine the people who hunted and the echoes they left behind. I'm Corey, and tonight we step into a building that never should have existed, and into the mind of a man who treated human life as inventory. This is H.H. Holmes. Herman Webster Mudgett. That was his real name. Ordinary, forgettable, harmless sounding. He was born in 1861 and raised in New Hampshire. Intelligent, articulate, calm, in ways that unsettled people. As a child, he was repeatedly bullied and humiliated, including being forced to confront a human skeleton in a doctor's office. Instead of recoiling from death, something in him shifted. Holmes went on to study medicine. He learned anatomy. He learned chemistry. He learned how bodies work and how they fail. And most importantly, he learned how to fake death. Insurance fraud became rehearsal, and murder became the first act. By the time Holmes arrived in Chicago, the city was exploding. The World's Columbian Exposition drew more than 27 million visitors. People arrived from everywhere, young, alone, and searching for something more. Chicago was crowded, chaotic, anonymous, perfect. But Holmes purchased a drugstore in the Englewood neighborhood, directly across from a train station. He was charming, professional, persuasive. People trusted him. Then he began construction on what he claimed would be a hotel. In reality, he was building a trap. The building would later be known as the Murder Castle. It had staircases that led nowhere, hallways that ended abruptly, doors that locked from the outside, soundproof rooms, gas lines piped into bedrooms, and chutes that dropped bodies into the basement. And below it all, a furnace, acid vats, and a dissecting table. Holmes constantly fired and replaced construction workers so that no one ever saw the full layout. No single person understood the building except him. That wasn't chaos, it was design. Inside those walls, people vanished. Holmes targeted people who couldn't immediately be missed. Young women traveling alone, employees, romantic partners, orphans. Those who trusted him. He courted women, proposed marriage, convinced them to take out life insurance policies, and then killed them. Some were gassed, some were sealed in rooms, some were poisoned, some were dismembered. Their bodies were stripped of identity and sold. Even in death, they were profitable. Minnie Williams believed she found a future. She was educated, capable, and she trusted him. At his urging, she transferred property into his name, and then he murdered her. When her sister Nanny came searching, worried, suspicious, Holmes murdered her too. Two sisters, erased. Not in rage, not in passion, in calculation. Holmes didn't fall because of the murder castle. He fell because of greed, and because he crossed a line even he couldn't charm his way back from. After leaving Chicago, Holmes partnered with a man named Benjamin Peitzel in an insurance fraud scheme. The plan was simple: fake Peitzel's death, collect the payout, and disappear. Instead, Holmes killed him. Benjamin Peitzel was murdered in 1894, his body staged to resemble an accident. Holmes attempted to collect the insurance money and fled with Peitzel's children, claiming he was going to reunite them with his mother. He never intended to. One by one, Holmes murdered 3 of Peitzel's children. Howard, the youngest, was taken to Indianapolis. There, Holmes rented a house, purchased chloroform, and killed the boy. He dismembered Howard's body and burned the remains in the stove and fireplace. There was no spectacle, no elaborate structure, just a man alone with a child he decided was expendable. That crime drew attention Holmes couldn't talk his way out of. Insurance investigators grew suspicious. The Pinkertons were brought in, and in 1894, Holmes was arrested. Holmes confessed to 27 murders. Investigators believe the true number was far higher, possibly over 100. Some estimates range between 30 and 200. The truth is, we will never know. Holmes lied constantly. Even in confession, control mattered more to him than truth. Bodies were destroyed, records were incomplete. His victims were reduced to fragments, or nothing at all. The trial moved quickly. It lasted just 6 days. The jury consisted of 12 men. Prosecutors primarily focused on the murder of Benjamin Peitzel. They didn't need the rumours of the murder castle to secure a conviction. When deliberations began, they didn't take long. Within a matter of hours, the jury returned a unanimous verdict: guilty. Holmes was sentenced to death. The speed mattered. It showed clarity. It showed certainty. Even stripped of legend, even reduced to one provable crime, Holmes was unmistakably guilty. After his conviction, Holmes did not retreat into silence. He performed. While waiting execution, Holmes sold a confession to a newspaper for thousands of dollars. He claimed responsibility for 27 murders, carefully numbered, theatrically presented. But even then, he contradicted himself. Some of the people he claimed to have killed were later found alive. It didn't matter. Holmes understood something modern long before the modern age. If you control the narrative, you control your legacy. He revised details, he exaggerated, he minimized, he shifted blame. He turned his own trial into a serialized entertainment show. Readers devoured every word. Even at the end, Holmes wasn't just confessing. He was marketing. And perhaps the final cruelty is this: we still argue about his number, still debate his truth, and still repeat his name. He ensured that. Before his execution in 1896, Holmes made one final request: that his body be buried in concrete so no one could dissect him the way he had dissected others. Even at the end, he feared becoming what he made his victims. The murder castle was eventually destroyed. The site was rebuilt, but Chicago remembers. Holmes didn't kill in the shadows, he killed in the spotlight of progress, while the world celebrated innovation and modernity. He wasn't wild or chaotic, he was methodical. And that makes him worse. Holmes didn't look like a monster. He looked educated, sounded trustworthy, and he built systems that felt official and safe. And that's the lesson he leaves behind. Evil doesn't always announce itself with violence. Sometimes it wears intelligence. Sometimes it hides behind paperwork, doors, and confidence. If someone controls the space, the rules, and the narrative, pay attention. Ask questions, notice who benefits, and trust the moment your instinct whispers something isn't right. I'm Corey, and this has been Hunted and Haunted Evidence and Echoes.